Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Everybody? Okay, perfect. And I assume everyone has received the user manual for the year-end closing. I believe.
Yes.
Okay, good, perfect. So I'll stick with that just so that we are. You have something to look at, right? So this is we are doing the 2024 year-end update. So again, the payroll is not mentioned in detail in here because payroll is a module in itself. It has a lot more involved with the payroll. So we'll just briefly go over the payroll. Also, the year-end update from Microsoft that will also, I'm sure you must have scheduled or it's happening. The next update is 18.7. When you update the October release, you'll be moved to automatically 2027. Again, any ISV products that you have will need to be upgraded as well. So if you haven't, Arlene generally helps out with that, reaching out to the vendor and get you the latest and the greatest. Okay, one more person just joined. Okay. So moving along, we will start with the inventory. And the way it works is some modules, Frago, some modules have a fiscal and a calendar year. Some modules best done the calendar year close. So inventory has fiscal, receivable has both fiscal and calendar, payable also has fiscal, calendar, fixed assets, and GL and analytical accounting. For inventory, before we start, I would like to say one thing is to run a reconcile utility, all the modules. I'll go to the inventory, but all this, it's part of the utility. It's part of the utilities to reconcile. So inventory, utilities, reconcile. Other way to go is you go to Microsoft Dynamics GP tools, utilities, select inventory and reconcile. So the reconcile process generally takes a little time depending on the volume, of the data, but it takes a little time. So best to run it a week or so before, just so that when you do the year end, it doesn't, take forever. So for inventory, we'll start with the reconcile utility. It's important that we run this utility. What it does is it's just sends the information, anything that's missing, aligns, and any orphan record that didn't go through, it properly links them and makes the inventory correct if there is anything missing. Once you do the reconcile, then, or before that, make sure you post all your transactions. All the batches should be posted for the current year. If there's anything for the next year, you can always recreate them or leave it blank. But all the batches should be posted, if anything, in here. You probably know that you can do the series posting to post all the batches. Only one thing with series posting is if any batch is not errors out, you will have to go and make sure you fix that and not stuck. Sometimes people just run a series posting and move on, may not notice that some batch didn't go through. So it's a good idea to just make sure you're making sure all the best batches are posted. Run the reconcile inventory utility. Any discrepancies, like I said, it will do the reconcile, will take care of it. Generally, it's a timing thing, but the quantities or anything that will be adjusted when you run this utility. After the utility is done, complete the physical inventory count. To do that, you run a report. I have that at the bottom. Activity, physical inventory checklist. When you run the report, it gives you all the items to the stock count and compare with what you have. documented in the system. If there's any variances, you come here and make the entry, adjustment variance, that you need to adjust the quantity on it. If you need to run additional report, okay, you can come down and run any additional report that is part of your year-end package. Once you complete with everything, the reports, the utilities, posting, the next step is to do a backup. The reason for backup is you have a backup before you start, and now you do a backup because you have cleaned up, in a way, inventory. Did the backup, and once the backup is done, then we'll go to close the year. One thing, the key thing to remember is change the date here. I'm in a sample company, so it does automatically goes to the states. I'm going to do 20. It's okay, 2024. That way you have the kind of correct date of the posting, closing. Even if you're doing on, let's say, January 5th, make sure you change the date to 12/31/24. Obviously, all users are out of the system. Ideally, out of all the companies. If they had to be, maybe it's okay, but they cannot be posting. They cannot be in the company that you are doing the year-end close. Okay. So when you do the year-end close, what it does is it transfers the current year quantity, cost, sales amount, everything to the history file for the review. It updates the items beginning balance, quantity, and the quantity on hand for each site. Zeroes out quantity sold fill. So if I go to the quantity and site, I don't have the item, let's just pick something. So you see the sold quantity that gets zeroed out. So you have it correct for the year that for the next year. Okay. Now it removes the purchase receipts for the items that have been completely sold and a cost change history for prior to the date you specify. Discontinued items will also be gone, any lot attributes, any of those things when you do the year-end close. So I'm coming to the year-end close. It's optional to remove discontinued items or sold lot attributes and sold receipts and a cost change history prior to the date. So discontinued item, obviously you haven't used it in a year. It's one less thing to show up in a lookup. Lot attributes, okay, the item has it's a brown color, it's a red color chair, black color chair. Any of those attributes will be gone. It has arms, not arms, all those things will be gone for the sold item. Now update item standard cost. If you're doing that, that's applicable to FIFO periodic or LIFO periodic valuation methods only. You can do that, click on a process, it will process it, depend again on the volume. It will take some time to do the closing of the inventory. And we go in the order that it's mentioned in the user manual: inventory, receivables, payables. It's important that we follow the order recommended by the or given by the Microsoft. Okay. Once the inventory is closed, it's optional. You can come here and close the fiscal period for the inventory. So this is something you can do after you close the period at that time, or you can come once you close all the modules and come here and close it, just so that nobody else makes any entries in here. Yeah. Any questions on inventory? Now, before you move on to the next module closing, I recommend you do another backup. That way, in case something doesn't go right in the next module closing, you can restore after the inventory was done. Don't have to start all over again. The next module that we have is receivable modules. This has a fiscal and a calendar year. If you are doing it calendar, the one that period summary. This last close. That's my last close. Second. Okay. Yearly summary. What I was looking for. So if you do a fiscal year end close versus a calendar, you see this option when you're looking for the customer annual balance. This takes it from the last year close. If you put a fiscal year, then you define the periods. But by default, it takes the last close. If you're doing a 12/31/24, you will get the balances as of that. If it's closed as of September, that will be your balances. So just keep that in mind when you run some of these inquiry reports or inquiries. It's recommended that you close the calendar year and a fiscal year as close to the last date of the year as you can, since the last close view have a correct totals and ensure that all sub reports have a year-to-date number. So just that's something to keep in mind. You do that. Okay. The customer yearly summary. I just did that. So same steps. First, you go post all the batches. Sure, all the batches are posted. There's no unposted batches for the current period. You will get an error message if there are any unposted batches. So I will just go a little slow on this machine. Okay, so all the batches are posted. Come on. So while it's doing that, post all the batches, make a backup. Now, if you don't have an ability to make the backup, you probably have to work with your systems person or IT person to make the backup at every step that you are requesting. I used to do my own backup, so I didn't have the problem. But if not, then you have to work with them, schedule time with your IT person so he or she is available to do the backup for you. So let me see if I can. Okay, good. Okay, so that is gone. Once all transactions are posted, reconcile. There are a few steps in a receivable on a reconciliation side. Each one works a little differently. So current customer information. You run, and each one is run individual. So you run this process once that is done. Then outstanding documents, many times it happens that the customer outstanding balance that you know of versus what system is showing is different. In that case, you run this, but for our purposes, we'll run that batch information. Any discrepancies in batch posting, it will be taken care of here. Fiscal year is for the entire year, and the calendar year is for the calendar year. Make sure your reconcile is checked, post print report, so you can view anything that come up. Since we're doing the year end, we will run it for all the customers, and the year is 2024. Let this be same, and we run a process. This one, each one, when you run it, it does take time. So plan it accordingly. Right. Okay. So once the reconciliation is done, suggest you do a backup. Always do a backup before you click on a year-end process. It's a great idea. Before you do year-end close right here, make sure you do a backup. So now when you come here, have few options depending on how your year is. You can do the fiscal year or you can do the calendar year. You can do all at the same time. If it's fiscal year is not applicable, just do it all and it will process that. Okay. Just wait, I wanted to show you the tax year-end close. That is optional. I will go to tools, routine, company, text, tax year-end close. This does is a sales tax closing, and it should be completed after the year-end closing procedure for all sales and purchasing modules. And then you do a final backup on a receivable management. You can assess the finance charges. Generally, this is anyway monthly process that clients run if you're assessing a finance charge. In the statement, you have the balances that you need. Any questions? You can run the aging if you like, but that's, again, these are all PDF reports. Generally, what I personally do is I create a folder in accounting side saying the year end for 2024 or whatever year it is, and start putting all my files that, a separate folder for a backup. All backups are in there, and also all the reports that I run for the year end are in there as well. That works for me. Next, we'll move on is the purchasing. Anybody has any questions? And if I'm going fast or slow, just let me know. Nobody says anything, so I'm not sure. Okay. Now, payable. Payable has one additional feature, and that is 1099. So when you close the calendar year, it will transfer the 1099 balance. You get the year-to-date 1099 balance, and the report all 1099 to print out. Again, close if you have a fiscal year, close the fiscal year as close to the calendar year, just so that you have the kind of the correct balances, so-called, since the last close. So we'll start with the post all the transactions that you have, run a reconcile. I highly recommend running the reconcile. I mean, I don't have it, don't say it in the manual. I highly recommend running a reconcile for all the modules prior to doing the closing a week before or so. Because when you do a reconcile, any stray record or anything that's there, it will, it will be corrected. Otherwise, sometimes you run into problems during the closing. So just like receivables, the payable has few options. It reconciles the summary, fiscal year, calendar year, batches. Workflow you can ignore unless you are using the workflow. Yeah. Reconcile, make sure this is checked, and you print the report so you have it documented, put it into your year-end folder. This one is okay. This is just the purchase orders you need to reconcile during the year. This is not needed for the year-end process per se. So you do the reconcile is done, post all the batches, make a backup, right? Make sure your date is 12/31/24. When I do it, I do all the modules except GL. So that way I don't have to keep changing dates. If you're doing one at a time or one day at a time, just keep in mind to make sure you change the date. And then we'll come to the routine year-end close. This works same as receivable. You do fiscal and a calendar year, print report. Report is good, so you have it, save the report to your folder. Once that is done, make a backup. So I call it pre and post backup. Pre-year and close, post-year and close backup. The next step is to print 1099. The key, the 2024 year-end update is uploaded before you print 1099. Come here. From 2023, the last year, Microsoft added new forms, updated the system so you can print 1099 right from here on a plain paper. Before last year, you had to buy 1099 forms because when you print from here, it has no lines. No lines is a blank paper without the lines. And the boxes, all of that was not there. But now you can just print it on a plain paper with boxes, lines, and use this. From 2023, if you have 10 or more 1099s, you have to file it electronically, just so that GP does not file electronically. You'll have to file it. If not sure, you can call sales at ptcsolutions.com. Excuse me. Okay. Another thing is you can print a multiple 1099 for vendors depending on the box, right? So if I take who my 1099 vendor is, I think this one is Beaumont, I think. For depending on the box. So you have different options. You can print one for miscellaneous, one for non-employee compensation, different options, multiple 1099, partial mask tax ID. You can mask a social security number on 1099. Okay. Right, so that takes care of that. In case you not aware, just the view mode. Okay. An option 1099. Okay. 1099. This is a new field that's added. and EC, non-employee compensation. That was added in 2023, I believe. And you can select that option for the vendor. Earlier, there was the options, that option was not, it was miscellaneous dividend and interest. It's new thing added from
Is there a way to
2023.
make a report of all of the vendors that shows what's marked as 1099 and what's not?
In Great Plains?
You want to see a report or a list?
Yes, please.
Okay. The quickest thing can go as, I'm going to go to the smart list. I find it easier. Let's just go to smart list. Yeah. Where's my purchasing? This is a CAN report that came in, that comes with the smart list. But if you don't have it, you can just, let's just look all the vendor, you know what, I'll just run the vendor, this report that gives you all the vendor information. I will add a column in here, 1099 type. Okay, let's just see, let that in there, okay. So it tells me what kind of a vendor it is, and I can filter it out. It does not equal, not a 1099 vendor. Okay. So you have two ways to do. One is a CAN report that comes with GP telling you 1099 vendors. And the other one is you just look at the vendor list and add a field called 1099 type that tells you what kind of a vendor that is.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Also, in 2024, there's a script that is released by Microsoft that we can use that to design a report for you. It tells you the 1099 balances for all 1099 vendors before you running 1099, just so that you can see and you know what the balances are. If you need to make correction, you can do that. So you know how to make the corrections, right? You go to 1099 detail, select your vendor, and you can make the correction wherever is needed. Let's see, to the year. 227 is the count. Okay, it doesn't have anything, I guess. Oh wow, they got FATCA. Okay, so you can come here and make changes if you need to on your 1099. Okay. 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 So we also have mass update for vendors. So one is update 1099 information. So you can come here and make changes 1099 transactions. If you want to change the tax type, that they all should be this marked in this box from, I don't know, from interest to dividend or interest to non-employee compensation. You can run this utility instead of doing one vendor at a time, especially when you have a lot of vendors. But that tool is that just be very careful. I suggest to do a backup before you run this utility. All utilities just need to be careful, so we not make mistakes. Did talk about the setup. Let me, I'll go over that 1099. So it's purchasing setup, payables, and I'll go to 1099 setup. Otherwise, you can go from top, Microsoft Dynamic GP, tools, setup, purchasing, and payables. Okay. the 1099. This is where you define the dollar amount. So non-employee 600, minimum amount is $600. You start getting 1099 once you reach that. Miscellaneous, again, it has a different amount depending on the just the law that state you are in. Okay. Okay. Any questions on that? This is a restricted area, obviously, as part of a setup. So this is something you do initially. I didn't make any changes. Unless there is change in a law, and then you need to make changes. Okay. Come back here, actually. Form type. So you can do a continuous or a single feed, one form at a time, right? Time February 1099 edit list. Make sure you pick all the vendor. You can print it. Will give you edit list, telling you the dollar amount. To read it before you print it and send it out. Make sure all this information is correct. You have the federal ID number, your federal ID number. The vendor has the ID number listed as well. Go to vendor card. I'll pick the view mode. Okay. Yeah, so your tax ID has to be there for the vendor, all 1099 vendors. Make sure it's there. Okay. Any questions anybody has? Okay. To show you how to edit that information. Okay. So we have 1099 corrections, transaction edit 1099. Okay. So this window, what it does is, if you look at it, it's very 1099 transaction. If you want to split the dollar amount or correct the dollar amount, once you identify defined vendor as a 1099, all the transactions for that vendor will go as 1099. If you want to make changes to it, anything, okay, for this invoice number, I don't want $2,000 for 1099, only $1,000 of this will be 1099. You change the dollar amount here, the remaining would not be 1099, would not be added to that. And that's how you make change if you need to make changes to the transactions. So just be careful, with all those changes. And I also recommend make sure it's documented. So somebody asks you a year later, you know why you did what you did. Auditors, manager, whoever, right? So any such changes should be properly documented. So you have more than one way to change the dollar amount. This window is for the transactions, and what did I go? 1099 detail. This window is for the total dollar amount that you can change. Didn't see the year, but here it was. Let's see, 1 second. I had the view mode in here. 23. Okay. Maybe I need to reconcile. I'm not sure. Anyway, it's a test company, but it's not showing the transactions that I want to see. I would expect them to be here, but I'm not seeing it. Maybe I need to run the reconcile to have this screen populated. Anyway, so just so that everybody knows, if you come here, it's a transaction. 1099 transaction can be edited, and this one, sorry, 1099 detail is for the total dollar amount. Cards, 1099 detail for total dollar amount. Transactions, edit 1099 information is for transaction level changes. Any questions? Okay. Okay. Just do some Q&A here. Inactive vendor address. Okay, so inactive vendors are not automatically removed at the year end. You manually have to do that. Mark vendor as inactive in here, inactive, and make the vendor inactive, provided when you mark inactive, you cannot add any transactions to the vendor. Okay. What exactly do the payable management year-end close procedure do? It moves all the dollar amount, 1099 amount, another amount into the year-to-date amount. We can print 1099, the vendor balances, vendor yearly balances. You see again amount last close. You will see the correct balances for the vendor. Amount says last close. This is there is no closing. Not seeing any transactions, but you will see the transactions total for the year. A quick look on a vendor. Good question. Printing checks in a new year prior to closing the old year. If you need to print a check for, let's say, January, right, second 22, but you're not ready, to close the year. Well, in that case, best to close the year and then print the check. There are a couple of ways to handle it. One is if you do a manual check and then enter in the system of the year end closing. I don't recommend, but the thing is you can void the check, do a manual check the following year, don't print the check, just keep the same number, use a duplicate number and put the check in so you have it registered. But ideally, close the year before you're printing a check for the next year. Okay. 1099 question. Found that there was an incorrect amount in 1099 row for the year-to-date amount. How can you fix it? Right. So you see in the period summary and you found the difference. Edit 1099 transaction information. And there you will change the dollar amount close it, and then you can run the print the 1099. Right? So, okay. Okay. Check vendor's name. Make sure your vendor card information has all the information correctly entered. This is where the vendor name will be picked up from here for 1099. So make sure you're using the correct proper name. And like I said, take the view. Okay. You see how here it is. This is a 1099 vendor, how the name is. This is a legal name that will be printed on 1099, along with you need a tax ID and the type of the 1099. So make sure this information is added and it is correct. Since that's going to be on 1099, they will file 1099 and you'll be filing the 1099 with that information. Okay. The next one on my list I have is payroll. Before we move to the payroll, let's do a backup. Now that the payable year and closing is done, do the backup. Okay. Okay. Now, before printing 10 a year end statement, okay. I'm looking at the steps for the payroll. So for payroll, you need to do the year-end update, right? Verify the version of Microsoft application so that you get the correct wages, the dollar amount for the wages, the 401k, all that information is correctly entered. Complete all 2024 payrolls. Complete payroll month end and a period quarter end procedures, right? Run reports so you have it documented if anything changes. Make a backup. Install the 2024 year-end updates. Okay. Okay. I will come to the year and just okay. There are some additional steps in the payroll. Is when you run a payroll, make a backup. Okay. Year-end wage report is one of the reports to run. Run a reconcile. Payroll is payroll has a lot of calculation in there, right? For the taxes, the benefits, the deductions, a lot goes into payroll. So reconciliation will take time. From my personal experience, taken a couple hours to a few hours, depending again on the volume. So it's very, very important that you run the reconcile on a payroll. By default, reconcile is not checked. You will have to check the box. Run the reconcile before you do anything, right? Complete all your payroll for 2024. Okay. Any tax update for the current year you have installed it. Need to do the tax. Microsoft release every October their releases, so you need to run or install it the year-end tax update. John Hanbest or Jim or whoever one of them takes care of that from the paradigm. Need to install that before we do the year-end closing for that. Finish all your run, validate the W-2 data, sure all the all the fields are correct. The taxes, year-to-date taxes, benefits, deductions, gross wages, net wages, they all are correct. Before we go to the check run. Okay. Right. And I will come to the year-end closing. Fairly simple. Click on a year-end closing, and this does take time. So do the year-end closing and year-end wage report. Generally, it shows for the year that you closed. So once you close the year, come here, run the wage report, have it for your record, save it. Right. If you need to make any changes, this is the time before you do the year-end close. I don't have anything in here, but this has no payroll. Okay. Before you do that, you come here and make any changes that you need to make. If you're using a third-party product, make sure the information is transmitted to have it updated on their system, like for instance, ADP. Make sure the changes are reflected on the ADP side, post-payroll or pre-payroll. Everything, all of those things has to be in a sync. The record should tie with what you have in the system. W-2 is generally electronic filing, but you need to check all your data. And if you want to do the payroll year-end close, just schedule it with one of us. It's a little bit delicate process. That's the way to say it. Any questions anybody has? Okay. We did the inventory, we did the purchasing, we did the sales. Project accounting does not have a year-end close. The payroll has a little bit more steps to do it. It will update the PTO also. So payroll has a little bit more involved. Now, before we go to financial, I'll do the fixed assets last. And we'll do the GL side before we go to the fixed assets. After you do the payroll year-end close, make sure you have the backup for go to the GL, right? So to get to the GL, generally GL doesn't happen at 12/31 or first week of January. GL is much later, maybe March, April, or later date. You can continue doing everything else as long as the submodules are done. The balances are correct in the submodule. Now for the general ledger, by the time you get here, everything, all of the modules are closed in the order that we listed. When you come to general ledger, first thing is to make sure that you have the fiscal, the calendar is set up for the 2025. So I'll go to administration, setup, under company and fiscal periods. So 2025 is set up before you close the GL. There is no way to go back. We'll have to restore from a backup if the next year is not set up. So just be mindful of that. Okay. Right. So one is again financial. Post all your batches. No batch is open. Here, the option in a general ledger, you have a series post. Post all your batches coming from submodules and any other module. Just make sure you all, I was looking for something else. Okay, batches are posted. Run a reconcile. Good idea. Running a reconcile is always a good practice. You can do once a quarter. Just keeps your balances correct. Any journal entries coming from other modules should be done. Right. Fix. Actually, I do need to do the fixed assets. How many of you use fixed assets? You can just tell me the company. Does Giovanni use fixed assets?
We should, Beth, because I do the res ops fiscal year closings, and we don't have fixed assets in the res ops, but I'm pretty sure Joanno Inc. has it. Correct,
Okay.
Beth?
I don't know. I didn't hear what she asked about, but I don't do the fixed assets. I think Dominic does.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
but Dominic, yeah, is he is in the webinar? He was here earlier. I
He
don't
was
see
on
him
it.
now. Oh,
He is
okay,
on it, but he could have stepped away. I don't. My door's
Yeah.
closed, so I can't see.
okay.
Yeah. Or yeah, maybe he's with somebody else, possibly. Don't know. He was here, yes. Stepped out. Okay. Okay. Because I was, if we had nobody's using fixed assets, then I didn't want to hold up everybody for that. That was what I was thinking. But anyway, it's okay. I will do the fixed asset. Let me just do fixed asset before GL, just so that. Okay. Okay. So for fixed asset, that is part of a financial, as everybody knows. Close that just so that we know. Run the depreciation and inventory that you need to add for this year. That should be a part of the depreciation. All in, sorry, not inventory, any assets. Sure you have everything added. And then back up, obviously process the depreciation. If you process the depreciation, the resulting batch, make sure it's posted in GL before we come here and close the year end, right? Run whatever reports you need for the fixed asset, your depreciation report, your asset listing. No, just run your reports. Okay. Don't want to run it, but generally, you have a book for internal and you have a book for federal. AMT, things accelerated, I think, is the depreciation. So add your books and we'll do the year end closing on your fixed asset. Okay. Once you do the fixed asset closing, you need to make sure you're set up for the quarters are set up, or is set up in here. Calendar. Fixed asset calendar. Fixed assets calendar is set for the year. Now, this little a fixed asset calendar can be different from the financial calendar. It's good to have them same, but it could be different. Okay, just so that you know. Here you have options to build a calendar based on the financial calendar, and you set the quarters in here. Make sure all these are set up before we close the fixed assets year end. Okay. Now, GL obviously is the big year-end close. That's really kind of a final step in a year-end closing. Run a reconcile, make a backup, make sure all your entries are posted from all sub-modules that, is in here. Now, there are a few things we need to do for the year-end, right? Okay. Ideally, print the account list. Now, the printing the account list, you can do it. I personally am a smart list person. So I will go to file, and then all I want to do is I just want to see the accounts, right? So as you know, when you do the GL close, what it does is all the P&L balances will roll into retained earnings. The balance sheet will stay and the P&L will zero out. So you need to come here and make sure the posting type is correct. So let's look at that. So I want to see, I'm just going to narrow it down right for now. So I want to see the posting type is equal to balance sheet. Okay. So let's say 1 to 3, from here, 1,000 to 3,000, up to 3,000 are all balance sheet account. I want to make sure they are balance sheet account. What is this? Oh, this is analytical. So I didn't want to say that. I can filter that out. Account category. That should help me. Okay. 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 I want to make sure that you have the correct posting type. Like this one instant. You see this account? You're looking at you see my screen, right? 6180 says rent expense. This is really a P&L account. It's not a balance sheet account. So that's what you need to do here. Because if they are, see, this should not be here. So if I go here, it's incorrectly set up. It's a distribution. Okay, it's a allocation account. Let me see if I can remove the allocation account. The current liability. Okay, this is the liability. Want to make sure that you don't have any P&L account accidentally as a balance sheet account. Okay. Account category number. They're not, and now I will do is account is equal to P&L. And I want to make sure there is no account in here that it should be a balance sheet account. Generally, you go by the account number, right? 1, 2, 3 are all balance sheet account, and 4 onwards are all P&L account. Just make sure you're not having anything, because if it's incorrectly categorized, then it will carry the balances over for next year. Like if the rent expense, for instance, let's take that example. If it's accidentally set up as a balance sheet, that balance will be carried over instead of zeroed out with the year end, and vice versa. If balance sheet account is set up as P&L, the balance will zero out there's a way we can, fix it, make the entries and correct it, but, it's just additional work that you'll have to do if it's not correctly set up. It's much easier to review it before you do the year-end close. Take a look, make sure the accounts are correctly set up. Right, so that's the first step, that posting type is correct. If there's any other report you look at, it is okay. I just look at Smart List. I found it a little bit easier and quicker to look at. So that's your first step to do it. Okay. I will close the last period of the fiscal year. I will come back to that. Check links. Since the GL is the key module, we recommend doing a check link. If you're doing a check link, make sure you have a backup before we run a check link. Okay. Also, setup. Now I go financial in GL. Okay. By default, these are marked, but you can double check. Come here. This is part of a setup, financial tool setup, financial setup, and I came to general ledger. This is the retained earning account. Make sure that account is correct. Maintain history, account transactions. If you want budget transactions, only budget are in your allow posting to history. Well, this should be unchecked for now, but it's different. Right, so make sure the maintain history, these two boxes are checked before we do that. Your next journal entry. Again, this is all auto updated by the system. You don't need to change anything. Just review it and see if there's anything think is not correct. Right. Okay. Then print age trial balance. In a report. Where are my report at the bottom? Okay. I suggest printing detail and a summary trial balance. Anyway, you're printing it to PDF or saving it as a PDF, so it's not a problem. But suggest to print detail and a summary trial balance, so you know exactly what balances are moving to retained earnings. Right. Also print a financial statement, balance sheet, P&L, statement of cash flow, retained earnings. That probably is you use management reporter. Otherwise, you can print from here if you use GP. Right. Okay. Next step, as I mentioned before, setup, financial setup. It's an administration setup, company fiscal periods. Make sure your 2025 is set up. Don't forget that. Absolutely have to set up before you go and do the year-end close, right? And then we'll go back to financial and we will do the year-end close. Utilities. Where is my routine? Okay. Okay. It shows you again here, your retained earnings account, starting journal entry for the next year. This is again optional, remove unused segment numbers, optional. Some people like it because what happens is many times once the chart of it account is set up for one company, you kind of copy it over to other companies when you're creating new companies. So they just go from one to another and you have additional accounts or segments or inactive account, right? The account that is not applicable to this company is there. So it's optional, you can remove them by checking this box. Provided there are no transactions, the system will remove it. Once that is done, and then you can say close the year. Okay. The process will move all the P&L balances to the retained earnings. P&L accounts will become zero. All the balances will be zero, right? Okay. So what it does is, and additionally, it will do is once that is done with the balances, if we go back to the fiscal period setup, the system will mark that year as a historical year. Okay, this checkbox will be checked by the system after the year end is done. So let me see if there's any error year end. Okay, for instance, 2022. It was closed. The system has marked this as a historical year. This becomes the historical year for the system, for GP now. And in the setup for most companies, you don't post to historical years. You do, what I mean is if you had to post a transaction, let's say you did your audit is completed now for the 2024 and the auditors gave you transactions that needs to be posted for 2024. In that case, what we do is we go back to the setup in the financial setup and a general ledger. You check this box which says allow posting to history. You check the box, save it, make the journal entry, post the journal entry. Once the entry is posted, you come back here and uncheck it. So you're consciously checking and unchecking so there are no accidents. Because if anything is posted to history without accidentally, it changes your financials. That could be audited, published. So you don't want that to happen. Just consciously check the box for you to post. Once posting is completed, uncheck it. Generally, it's only once or twice, maybe, you'll have to post to the historical year. Right? Did I change it? So I don't. Yeah. Okay. Right. Okay. So there will be a report once the year-end closing is completed. In here, it will print a report which tells you the debit and the credit balance. So it shows you all the trial balance. It shows the balance sheet accounts, which obviously the balance carried forward, beginning balance for 2025. The retained earning is now includes the P&L balances. And that is your number. When it's closed, you will see the debit and credit, both balances will be correct. So you know that it went through successfully. Yeah. It will list all the account that has been closed and gives you a total balance that should be, if you see a retained earning, that balance will be added to the retained earning. And that report cannot be reprinted. Right? Now you can officially close all the periods in the fiscal periods. Check the box, administration, setup, company, fiscal periods. Close all of them. You can do close all, and that will close the period. Even for the 2025, let's say if I go to 2025, because the system will automatically open up 2025. Just to be on a safer side, you can still close all the periods in 2025, keeping only January open. You go to February, you open the February for the team and close the January. That way, there are no accidents happen. GP, for whatever it is, it allows it to post in future periods. If you put, let's say, accidentally 2027, 12/17, 2027, it will post it, believe it or not. And you can't remove it. Now it won't let you remove until you set up a fiscal period for 2027. So it's just a weird way of working. But just mark all the periods closed now. You adjust your budget for 2025, not done so. And then now do a backup. So this is your backup, kind of a final backup post GL year end close. Right. Now GPS come up with a new option. I don't exactly remember which year it came up. A few years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago or so. This new feature, reverse historical year. If there is a problem to do it, maybe in August you find there's some problem and you need to fix it. So you can open reverse historical year. You can do that. Make sure you have backup. And obviously, generally when you do it, it's a best practice to keep the users out of the company for the year end close. And if you are opening up the historical year, right? Okay. So here I actually, if you look at the user manual, there are instructions on how to fix incorrect posting type. Okay, now, okay. Let's do some Q&A on GL, right? If you have a divisional return earnings account, the system does verify that all return earning accounts that are needed exist, right? It isn't found, the year end would not proceed. We looked at it, right? It's in a setup, general ledger, it shows the retained earning. Even the year end closing window in a routine, financial routine year end closing shows you the retained earning account where all the P&L balance will roll up. Just validate, make sure that is the correct account before you proceed. Right, the unit accounts, they're set up and that's okay. Wrong account type, there are instructions in there how to do that. Okay. Exclusive use during the year end close. It's highly recommended because it will not proceed if you have users in the company. And just to be on a safer side, you just good idea to block the time and do the year end closing, just so that you have no error messages. Okay. Accelerated account maintenance is done. Batches cannot be posted while the year-end close is in progress. This happens times, and there is a back-end process to release it. There's some of the error messages people are there, but there are instructions in here. Either you or your IT person can help. If not, obviously you can call PTC to troubleshoot. Okay. Okay. Yeah, financial report. Once your year end is closed, run a trial balance. Make sure the numbers are correct. Your management reporter will also reflect that. Just make sure you have all your reports as a backup for the pre and post, especially when you do the GL. What else? Okay. Now, okay. Questions. If anything, you like to know more, I missed anything. Is everyone still there? No questions? Cool.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. I
Hi.
see you.
Hi, sorry.
Oh,
So I
that's
had a
okay.
question on the fixed asset, year-end closing out for the fixed asset. I don't know if you went over
Yes,
that as yet.
I did. What's up? What can I help you
Yeah,
with?
so I was having an issue with there was an asset that was not fully depreciated. I tried
Okay.
to adjust it, and I don't know if when I do the year-end close, if it's gonna cause an issue for me next year. So that was my question, like the remaining life on an asset. Can you adjust it before you do the year-end closeout? Or
Yes,
does it have to
yes,
be done? Okay.
yes, definitely. You can change the asset life. You know how to do that, right? I'm just going to take a general.
Yeah, can you just
It's a troubleshooting. Let me see. I'm gonna find the. Okay, there it is. Okay, I don't know. Internal. So there's a process stated for somebody. So let's say this asset has original life of 7 years, right? If you look at, just pick something, right? 7 years,
yeah.
the remaining is 4306. So now if you want to change the life, let's say you're changing it. What is this? This is office desk. So I'm changing it from 7 years to, and that's because how much life does it? Well, it's 4 years, so I cannot do, let's do 5 years. Okay. Because it's already done. Remaining is four to go. 7, 3 are gone, right? So 4 years. So you want to fully depreciate, or you want to do is
Yeah, fully depreciated, because if let's say it should have been
mhm.
depreciated already, you want to fully depreciate it this year so it doesn't go into
Okay,
next year.
trying to get to the correct number. Okay, let's try this. So, right, so I lowered the life from 7 years to 3 years. Okay,
Okay.
you have already. I mean, I just pick a random item from here,
No, that's
right?
fine.
So,
That's
so
fine.
what I'm going to do is when I click on save, I say yes. Now, okay, this is what, so when you do say yes, you want to save it, this is the window you get. Okay, there are three options in here. So first option, the life. So what it does is, do you want to reset the life? Means it will recalculate the depreciation for the entire life of the asset,
Okay.
right? Um, okay, so we don't want to, well, if you want to, okay, you want to change the entire, because it's going to change the depreciation for you. I don't know if that's what you are looking for, correct?
Yes,
If
that's
you
correct.
don't want to change the depreciation for the prior years, right? You just want to change the depreciation for the year.
Yes.
This will change the depreciation for the year, for the current year only. Okay. Recalculate, what recalculate will do is recalculate for the remaining years. So it will not change anything for the current year, but it will recalculate for the remaining life. Many times that's what you really want.
Okay.
If I do recalculate, let me take a screenshot of this item. Okay, and I will say recalculate remaining. So how much has life to date is 309, night book value 690. I'm just going to recalculate. There are 60 days left. If you notice, it changed the amount. The depreciation rate change from 142 to 714. So next time we depreciate, it has only had 306 days, and that's it.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
And
that's
and then so I need to do this before I roll. I do the fixed asset
if you
close.
want it to be this year, yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, but it doesn't necessarily have to happen this year. I could do it next year if I forget.
exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
got it. Understood.
You just have to change the total life of the asset. The system will adjust the remaining life, and we'll do the calculation.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you so much.
Right? You're very
Thank you.
welcome. Uh-huh. Okay. Anybody else? Questions? I assume all of you who are on this call do the year-end, involved in the year-end or process the year-end.
Yes, I'm involved in it. Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Sam. Okay. Anybody else has a question that you like to do? Okay. Should I call it a day or we need time? Okay. In that case, I'll give you time. I'll give you the time back. Have a great rest of the afternoon. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.